even if you don't have a VR headset, you should still buy this game so that you yourself can learn why they call it Derail Valley. Oh shit. Derail Valley is the best train game at the moment. It's VR supported, which it really should say PC supported because it's at its best in VR. In the game Derail Valley, you are the individual working for Derail Valley Railworks and Transportation Company. It's sort of like food delivery, where you can pick and choose what jobs you want to do. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the very beginning. It starts off with a tutorial because the American public education system unfortunately doesn't teach you how to drive trains. The tutorial gives all the necessary information by manuals and physical paper, giving an immersive feel and utilizes the VR platform. Once through the tutorial, you get sent to the nearby steel mill, which is right in the middle of the map. Speaking of the map, it is large. I mean huge. However you want to put it, offering 16 locations with 5 different cities. Long distance jobs can take up to over an hour. That's if you take it slow. Who the fuck's gonna do? The steel mill is most likely where you're gonna start the game off at first. Though if you wanted to, you could go to any location with or without your locomotive. Most places on the map have the starting locomotive, some don't. While we're on the topic of locomotives, how many of them are there? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I will say there is a modding community that is alive that has made lots of locomotives and mods to help the game out, but at a learning curve. I don't even know how to install the mods myself. This is a downside to Derail Valley at the moment. If you don't want to do the chaotic job of driving a steam locomotive alone, that narrows your locomotives down to 2. With the larger one, you have to spend 6 figures and is really the locomotive you're supposed to access at the end of the game. Okay, we're still at the steel mill, but let's go see what jobs we can start off with. Every location has a main station where all the jobs are just very professionally thrown onto a table. Licenses are the main unlocks that progress you through the game and are required to apply for certain jobs. You start off with the DE2, the little shunter you started with, and a freight haul license. Nothing much, but everything you need to start making money. Looking at the job table, you might see that there are 3 different colored pages. These are the 3-ish job types: freight haul, shunting, and logistical haul. The freight license is given to you at the beginning of the game and is where you can haul goods from one location to another. Shunting jobs, you either unload full cars and store them or load empty cars for departure. And logistical hauls is where you just haul empty cars from one place to another. Typically they can turn into shunting jobs, then into freight hauls. Once you pick up a page from the job pile, you are going to actually see the amount you would be given if you were to take it. Then you're going to want to pan over to the right and see if your poor ass can even take it. Other important information is the bonus time and weight. I really like how they reward you for completing jobs ahead of schedule with bonus cash. The starting locomotive only has a carry weight of 400 tons, so you have to be very careful with what you haul. You only have the freight haul license, so you head over to the validator machine where you can just put in a job and an information book comes out. This book gives you all the step-by-step instructions on what to do, so you don't fuck up and grab an identical haul. If you haven't been able to tell, yes, this game is in VR, but anyone can make an okay to good VR train game. I'd like to say that this game sells itself on taking advantage of its platform, so that means a very high level of detail when it comes to game mechanics. For example, driving the shunter forward makes the engine perform better because of the air incoming through the front to the engine, or going too fast on turn makes to indicate that your train hallway is moving to one side and you could derail. Remember that this game is VR supported, so mouse and keyboard can still play, albeit a little weird because it's meant to be played in VR. Back to the haul. Coupling is also very detailed, which I'm very glad they didn't just go the easy route and used American coupling. I like how they made it a whole process you have to go through to connect the trains together. You have to slowly approach the hull, then link it together, then connect the air brake pipes and open them individually. This blue plug is for multi-unit. Pro tip to anyone buying this game, you can move freight at any time without having to start its job. So I've already hooked up the train before I've started the job. It's so I can get a head start for that time bonus. You bums. To the harbor we go. Now the challenge brought to this game is genius, and I can see why they had chosen a valley for us to drive in. Mountain regions are crazy. to drive through, as you might expect, meaning that you either have to watch your brakes and speed or your speed and engine heat. The challenge driving up is depending on your load and speed, you might not make it up a hill, especially if your train is near your locomotive's pulling power. The DE2 only can pull 400 tons on its own, so having map knowledge on what the grade of the tracks are later in game also plays an account whenever you're deciding on a job. The harbor is most likely a place you're going to visit at the start of the game. This is again a criticism of the game. Lots of cities don't have the inner city trains that aren't going to the harbor. Now it does make sense that most trains go here, but early game it gets boring traveling to and from the harbor, but jobs that pay the most are to the harbor. This can lead to burnout on the game pretty fast. Just be mindful of where your jobs are going and if you want to be stuck in an area for the next 3 hours. Yes, there are other places like the forest, farm, and mines, and they are a little boring. The oil wells you can't even take unless you have a hazard license, and the military bases are literally off limits. I'm hoping after the next update, Simulator, they start working on the map and or making brand new maps. The only reason I'm taking any other jobs that aren't going to the harbor is because I'm tired of seeing and driving the same track. Like, I don't know if it's just me, maybe I'm just greedy or something. Also, speaking of the new update, Simulator is Derail Valley's next major update, and if you're not convinced to buy this game, Simulator should. The next update will improve user interface, train simulation, and most strikingly, the environment. No more will it perpetually be 4 o'clock on a Friday. There's a lot coming to the Simulator update. The most obvious is the environment. As I've stated, there'll be a brand new day and night cycle, as well as weather, lighting, and new light sources so that you can see at night. Other little things such as water simulation, so it isn't just flat plane anymore. And lastly, visual effects, environmental sounds, and graphic optimization. Most excitingly, new locomotives such as the SO60, DM3, DH4, and the DE6 Slug. Lots of details are coming to vehicles such as the Doppler effect, dynamic braking, fans, bells, better manual servicing, and lastly improvements to the user interface, and other features like photo mode, sandbox, and all that is only stretching the surface of everything coming to Simulator. On Steam, this game has an overall 94% positive review. That's almost to 95, which would give it an overwhelmingly positive. And I think that is well deserved. Even though this game still has a lot to add, Derail Valley surpassed my expectations. I would highly recommend this game if you have a VR headset, but even if you don't have one, I still suggest you buy this game and try it out. Or if you plan on one day getting a headset, it wouldn't hurt to maybe buy it while on sale. Alt Future has a great game and an even greater one in the making. With the minor graphical terrain error and signs clipping to the ground, easy 9 out of 10 in VR, and a 7 out of 10 for PC. A lot of the experience is lost, but it's still a solid game. And hopefully you're smart enough by now to know why it's called Derail Valley. Because if you don't know, you're gonna find out the hard way.